So there are a few things going on that my next guest and I will talk about, and of course I love to get her thoughts on it and your thoughts. Firstly, the Coalition will introduce legislation on a 4-year parliamentary term subject to a referendum, with all three parties supporting it to a select committee. The legislation will have a caveat designed by the ACT Party as part of its coalition deal, that the term would only extend to 4 years if there were greater checks and balances on the government of the day. It would mean unless the makeup of select committee was made proportionate to non-executive members of parliament, the term would remain at 3 years. What else is going on? Well, the Prime Minister's currently in Vietnam for his first trade mission of the year, but earlier this week he was interviewed and refused to give a decisive answer when questioned about Andrew Bailey. And then what transpired for the next 5 minutes was actually quite embarrassing for the Prime Minister. He just would not say yes or no. He was asked, if Andrew Bailey had not resigned, would you have fired him? Well, what I say to you is he realised that that didn't happen because he resigned. No, we know that. But if he hadn't have resigned, would you have fired him? Well, he knows that he didn't meet my high standards. No. Can you just say? This went on and on and on to the point where, the interviewee, well, it was Hosking, who said to the Prime Minister, this is your problem. This is why you are going down in the polls, because you will not give a decisive answer. People don't know what you stand for. So Christopher Luxon is sitting in a critical juncture, is he not? He needs to quickly improve his communication skills. And finally, the Green Party has announced plans to introduce a green budget, kind of an announcement of an announcement, aimed at providing, they say, an alternative financial plan focused on sustainability and social well-being. They argue that traditional government budgets prioritise economic growth. Oh, terrible, prioritising economic growth over long-term environmental and social stability, and their proposal will offer a vision where wealth is distributed more fairly and public services are properly funded. So there's a bit to talk about. Joining me now, Christine Rankin, former head of WINS, Topol councillor, political commentator, good sort. Christine, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Leah.
Lots to talk about, my friend. Lots to do.
Yes, indeed.
Firstly, 4-year term for Parliament. Good idea?
Look, I'm really torn. I look at the current government and what they've got to cope with, and 4 years would be great because I think that would really show some progress. Because the challenge, which we've talked about before, is just so enormous. But then you think, if it's a disaster, oh my God, we'd have whoever it was for 4 years instead of 3, which is just another year to add to whatever appalling thing is happening. I truly am torn. Sometimes I think it's a really good thing, but it's also a hell of a risk.
Well, I mean, it's a good thing if the party that you support is in. I get that, but if it's not, it's 4 years of hell, you would think.
Well, it's not even the party you support, because sometimes you don't necessarily support a party who's still doing really well for New Zealand. You might hate them generally, but they're making progress and things are happening and we're doing okay, and you have the ability as an individual to make it if you want to. Yeah. If you haven't got that, it doesn't matter who it is. I mean, if you look at the last government, and obviously I am not a supporter, it just went so damn far that where would we have been in another year?
Yes, I see. I mean, the thing is, and the downside, the pitfalls, could mean that a government could go unchecked, for longer. So you'd have to improve the policy making, if the cycle's going to go to 4 years, you'd want to make sure that would have to be changed, wouldn't it?
Yes, and ACT is asking that select committees are proportionate to the numbers in Parliament, and yes, that is one way to do it.
Explain that, Christine. How does that work?
Well, I presume that whatever your proportion of the vote is, that the select committee would be made up of that representing that proportion of the vote. So
Right.
I can't give you exact examples of that, but if National's got 60%, then the select committee would be made up of 60% National representatives. Or if Labor's got 40%, there'd be 40% on any select committee.
So it's proportionate and seen as fair. You'd have non-executive members, so like backbenchers and not executive members as well.
Absolutely. It probably would be far more democratic that way, but really are you once again setting yourself up, if you are the government of the day, for a hell of a lot of pain in getting to any conclusion?
I can see it, because it's taken a year of this current government to even start making headway in some things they've already kind of got onto, but they're still, digging out of that very big hole. So, and then the next thing, they'll all be, campaigning again to get back in.
Yeah.
Suddenly 3 years is up. So I understand a 4-year term. And wouldn't it also come into line with a lot of around the world? I mean, most states in Australia have it, Canada, UK, hundreds of countries do it.
Yes, and look, I would guess if we have a referendum, that is where we'll end up, because there's been a lot of debate about it for a long time. Of course, we'll all be a little bit nervous about it, but I think it will eventually happen, and we're going to have to live with the good part of that and the bad part of that.
Yeah. So Christopher Luxon, do you think Christine, is a little at a crossroads at the moment? The public wants someone who is clear, authoritative, but calm, and he does tend to come across as someone, for most of the time, that says a lot of words but actually doesn't say anything.
Yes, and to be fair, there are predecessors. Jacinda was a word salad of the very best, and I think, unfortunately, our Prime Minister is in the same situation. I have not seen a Prime Minister in my living memory who answered questions directly and upfront, and that includes Chris Hipkins, it certainly includes Jacinda, but the problem for Chris Luxon is he's got a lot of speak around everything that nobody really understands. Well, they never have, but his seems to be annoying people far more at the moment, and this is the time he needs to listen to what he's being told. Do you know, you look at Trump, and I know people hate Trump, but 77 million people voted for him. They knew exactly what he was going to do, and you know what, he's doing it. They know exactly what he said he thinks and he said he believes in, and that's what he keeps saying, and whether you hate it or not, I don't mean you personally, anyone listening hates it or not, you know where you stand with him. Most of the time he does exactly what he says he's going to do. And people laugh about it, but 77 million Americans love it.
Well, and we do bring up Trump because, besides also some of the comments that are just so left field, that where the heck did that come from? But you are right. And that was when he was first in the White House, when people were when they were interviewing people on the street, they were like, hey, he says, he just says what he means, there's no BS with the guy. That was my American accent.
It's very good.
Thank you. And that is what he, they loved about and love about him. And you are right. No one really kind of says, I think Christopher Luxon is now in the next couple of months. I think, there's rumours he's going to get rolled, and
I don't believe that. I don't believe that. I do not think the party is thinking that way at the moment, and I have no insider knowledge at all. I'm not claiming that. I just don't think they're ready to do that. But unless he comes to terms with us, because New Zealanders, like everyone else, wants to know what he thinks and what he's willing to do. And the people who work with him say they haven't experienced leadership like this before, and they won't have because he's not a politician. They seem to like it, but publicly he is mucking this up, and he either fixes it or something will happen to him before the next election. And if it doesn't, they're going to be in trouble.
That particular interview that I was talking about where he just would not say, yes, I would have fired Andrew Bailey. It's
It was
excruciating,
awful.
isn't it?
Yeah,
Why?
it was
I
just
mean,
terrible.
can you think of any reason he would not have just said, yes, I would have? Is there is that then, does he think he's admitting that, Andrew's done something worse? Or what is
I
it? Is it?
think I think he's trying to appeal to everyone. He's had a pretty tough time since he's gone in there. People have resented this very successful businessman going in and very rapidly going to the top of the party. And I've said to you before, we should be looking at what he does and what he manages to pull off, and respecting him is the most important thing. We don't have to like him. But I think he's trying to not offend anyone. And you know what? That never works. I guess I'm probably a bad example of always saying exactly what I think. I'm always really clear with people. If they don't like it, they
used to
shouldn't
get
have
you
asked
into
me.
trouble, Christine, but I loved it.
It gets me into trouble. But
Yeah.
I always believe if you've got a public position, you have a right and a responsibility to tell people the truth. And all this covering things up and being nice about things, no, just tell them how it is. They're big people, they can cope with it. Far better than what the left is doing to him at the moment, because the left media, dear God, it's relentless. It's every day, no matter what they do, whether it's a new policy on how you manage theft from a supermarket. No, this is what people ask for, and now they come up with a solution. Well, they didn't. Another group that they didn't even hire has come up with it, and they're in terrible trouble. Everyone's ripping them to bits. I don't know why they do the job. It's even worse.
I know, it's. What do you make, Christine, of the announcement for the citizens' arrest?
Well, the whole country has been in arms about the fact that a security guard has no power and control. They have a uniform and they're supposed to de-escalate everything. And everyone talks about de-escalation. Do you know the kind of people that they're dealing with out there? High on P and absolutely desperate. And you can de-escalate. No, you can't. Yeah.
So you think it's a dangerous thing that we could citizens arrest? You want? Do you agree with this?
I think we've got to give it a try as long as the law supports people who do take action. There are people who want to take action. They're too scared of the consequences. Make this real and let's see how it happens. I think the police are going to have some problems dealing with it, and the judiciary, but surely to God they've thought it through thoroughly and properly. But is it okay to let people do anything they like, and you can't, if you're the retailer, you just have to stand by and let it happen? We've complained about this for years. Ram raiding we went nuts about. Do you know it's not happening like it used to? It might be happening from time to time, but it's not on the news every day.
Yeah.